Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today we're going to be tackling another recipe from Claire Saffitz's cookbook, Dessert Person. This time we're headed to the back of the cookbook where she keeps the foundational recipes. So these are recipes that are linked into other recipes within the cookbook and are kind of the foundation, as the name would imply, that every baker should really master. So Pastry Cream is basically a stovetop custard made from a handful of ingredients that you probably have on hand already. Pastry cream is super delicious and really versatile. I'm going to be putting this into some cream puffs for a larger project that I'm working on right now. But without any further ado, let's get right into the pastry cream. Before we get started, on the stove, I've got a medium saucepan with whole milk, vanilla extract, and a little bit of kosher salt coming up to a simmer. We're going to add that into this egg mixture that we're about to work on. So let's get it going here. First, in a medium-ish glass bowl that's heat-proof, I've got 5 egg yolks. To that, I'm going to add some granulated sugar along with some cornstarch. So we're just going to come in here with a whisk and get this whisked all together. Claire did note that at first it's going to seem like it's too thick to whisk, and I would definitely say that seems like the case right now. But she said after about 2 minutes, this should loosen up and be really lighter and fluffier. So we'll just keep it going for 2 minutes and see how this lightens and changes in texture and color. All right, and I think that that looks pretty good. It's been about 2 minutes. The texture here, you can tell it's really kind of creamy, flowy. It's smooth, it's thick. The color here is a lot lighter. It's a really pale yellow versus that very yolky color that we had previously. All right, and so the milk as well, it's bubbling here. This is at a simmer. I can smell the vanilla extract in here as well. You could use vanilla bean if you want to. However, since I'm going to be doing a chocolate version of this, I kind of feel like vanilla beans are too expensive to pair with chocolate, which will just overpower them, so I'm using extract. However, if you were doing just a plain vanilla pastry cream, you probably do want to go with the vanilla bean pods, just so that you have the flecks of the vanilla and the flavor will be a little bit nicer. I'm going to continuously whisk here, and I'm just going to slowly stream in about half of this milk mixture. All right, and I think that's good. It seems like we've got about half, maybe a little bit more of the warm milk well incorporated into this egg mixture. So now we can add this back in, and I'm going to whisk continuously while we pour this back in. Now we need to take this back over the stove and finish cooking it off, so let's get to it. All right, so we've got the pan over medium heat, and now we're going to whisk this constantly until the foaming stops and the texture thickens up and starts to look like pudding. Claire noted that this process could take about 3 minutes. However, it could take longer depending on your stove and the pan that you're using. So she's got a few visual indicators of what we're looking for at that 3-minute mark. So we'll measure and reassess when we get there. It's been about 4 minutes in total. When we stop whisking, we should see some thick bubbles burble up to the surface. And there's one that's definitely, okay, so that was kind of a sigh. It didn't quite burble. Let's see. There we go. All right. All right, so those burbles are exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to kill the heat on this, and we will get it over and get it strained out. All right, so we're back over to the countertop here. We've got the pastry cream off the stove. You can see it's nice and thick and gloopy. Here I've got a large heat-proof bowl with a mesh sieve. This is, I don't know if I would call it fine or medium, but you want a mesh sieve. We're basically just going to strain out any little bits of egg that might have gotten curdled during the process here. So let's scrape everything in here. All right, and you can see the benefit of using a heavy bottom pot here. There's no scorching or anything going on in the bottom here. All right, and then we are just going to whisk this around just to get everything to fall through the bottom. So basically the point of this is that even though we separated the egg whites from the yolks, there might have been kind of those white fragments. You know, sometimes there's those little stringy bits that just really hug the yolk. Any of those will have curdled and gotten thick during the cooking process potentially. Further, if you had your vanilla bean, you'd be getting the pod out at this point as well. And you can see I've got a few little bits in here that look a little bit of a curdly egg situation going on right there. Maybe it's a clump of cornstarch or something that didn't get fully incorporated. But there are definitely a few solid pieces. Now, obviously, everything on the bottom here, though, is tasty smooth and lump-free. So we can scrape that off. All right, so using a fresh spatula, just go down there and get all of the good stuff off. So the lumps are on the inside, everything that's on the outside is fine to use. All right, so while this mixture is still nice and hot, we're gonna add in our butter. So I've got 6 tablespoons of butter. I've cut them into half tablespoon size clumps, and we're gonna add them, I'm doing 2 clumps at a time, and we'll just whisk it until those are melted, and then we'll add the next. And it is important that your butter is cold at this point. So that's going to do one really big thing for us. So we've got the mixture that has eggs in it. It was at a near boil while on the stove. And we are all familiar with carryover cooking at this point. So the eggs were the right temperature, this pastry cream was the right consistency when we took it off the stove. So if the temperature is hot and stays up there, this could end up overcooked. So by adding in this cold butter, you're bringing that temperature down. You're helping kind of speed up that process. Ultimately, we are going to chill this. Adding the cold butter in kind of speeds up that process. All right, perfect. So we've got all 6 tablespoons of butter incorporated here. You can see the texture has really thinned out considerably. So if you were doing the vanilla version of the pastry cream, you'd be done right now. Just pop some cling film on this, pressed against the surface, put it in the fridge for 4 hours up to overnight, and you'd be good to go. However, I'm doing the chocolate version. So here I've got 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. I'm using the wafers, so I didn't chop them. However, if you were using a bar, you'd want to chop that into small pieces. And we're just going to whisk this until that chocolate is fully melted. Wow, this looks and smells so good. I'm being super careful to make sure that all of the chocolate is melted. You don't want to have a glob of unmelted chocolate in your pastry cream because then it would no longer be creamy, which would be a problem. But also that feels like a suboptimal eating experience to have a glob of chocolate in your really smooth center. It'd be a different story if you're using mini chocolate chips or something like that, where it was really kind of consistently lumpy and inconsistent. But I feel like a surprise piece of chocolate just isn't, it's not it. All right, and here we go with the cling film. So you do want to press this against the surface. So this is all set then. I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator for 4 hours. If you wanted to do this in advance of whatever baking project you're doing, by all means, make this a day or 2 before. It will hold up just fine covered in the refrigerator. I will see you guys in 4 hours when this is ready to use. All right, so the pastry cream has been in the refrigerator for about 5 hours at this point. You can see it's definitely set up. It's got those marks from the cling film pressed against the surface here. And now we can try to break this up and just get it a little bit more willing to work with us just by going in here and whisking it around to kind of get it moving again. So nice and thick. Perfect. So now to the loosened up pastry cream, we're going to add in some creme fraiche or some mascarpone cheese as an alternative here. This is going to add some tang and help lighten up the pastry cream a little bit. So I'll just scrape this in here. Great, and now I'm just going to whisk this through to get it evenly incorporated. Wow, you can really tell the color's lightened up significantly. However, the texture here is way looser as well. So this is definitely a much more pleasant texture. It's still super thick and luxurious, but I can imagine piping this is going to be much easier versus the plain pastry cream. All right, so the pâte is baked up into cream puff form, and I've got the pastry cream inside, which is my favorite way to enjoy it. So this is the finished product. Let's give it a taste. Nice and crispy. The texture of the dough is really light. Pastry cream, super easy. Tastes better than chocolate pudding. And it actually reminds me of the filling from Rick's chocolate blackout cake. It's kind of got that vibe because in here I also added the mascarpone cheese, so there's that tangy bit. Really tasty and definitely recommend.